Hi, this is Jeff Huang, Realtor serving the LA San Gabriel Valley area. I'm here today with the president of Link Educational Institute, Xander. Thanks for joining me on this Zoom call.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
The goal of this video is to provide some tips and insights to the private grade school and high schools around the SGV area and the application process for college throughout the United States. We'll also discuss how it's impacted by COVID-19. Let's get started. Xander, what's the most common type of question parents have asked you for help?
So one of the most common questions that I get is to identify schools that fit within a family's values and or their interests. And so trying to find that can go over many different things, including what their student is interested in, and of course, what the family is looking into a school.
Okay, so after identifying the right school, what's the next step? Hopefully you can give us insight on grade school, high school, and college.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like we mentioned, based off of a family's values, they might be going towards a religious institution, maybe it's a Jesuit, a Christian, or a Catholic school. They might be going over a academically rigorous institution that's going to set them up for success in college. Whatever that might be, we want to make sure that the application process is very streamlined and able to showcase what a particular family's values and what their interests are. So ultimately, regardless if you're going into a primary school, a secondary institution, or college university, we want to make sure that a student has a resume or a brag sheet, essentially a list of all of their experiences and successes. So that way they can share that with the institution that they're applying to. And it ultimately makes the entire process of writing essays, filling out the application, et cetera, far easier when you have that historical document.
I see. Um, so is there an impact from grade school to high school that eventually leads to college?
Yeah, good question. I truly believe there is. And the main thing is that it's the habits that we build through grade school and primary school that lead to secondary and then overall to college. So ultimately, if you are being able to set your students up with the right habits, doing their homework at a certain time, being able to take care of themselves and their own chores and responsibilities, you're going to be setting them up for success in the long haul, AKA when they reach the college application.
Wow. So can you give us an example of a real life success story on how a student you've helped from the start all the way to college?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my students has been with me literally since the beginning of our institution. And ever since then, we've seen him through middle, high school, and now through the college application process this particular year. So it's been great to see him because he's quite unique. He's definitely not one of your highest academically rigorous students. In fact, he had ADHD or has ADHD, and he wasn't necessarily someone that was looking for an Ivy League, if you will. So ultimately, we found that he was a great fit for liberal arts institutions. And so with that entirety of knowledge of the many years that we've been working with him, we were able to build a application, a resume with him that was super attractive to these liberal arts institutions. And ultimately, he got into the Claremont Consortium.
That's awesome. I love to hear these success stories. Um, so how has COVID-19 impacted private schools?
Yeah, as you know, Jeff, COVID-19 has impacted everything, and schools are no different, regardless if they're primary all the way to college. They're all facing difficulties with regard to their budgets and their application processes. So one thing that we know is that these test scores are quantitative data pieces for these schools, such as your GPA is also a quantitative data. Other things that these schools look into are qualitative pieces such as your essays, your resume, and ultimately your interview. However, now with COVID-19, one of these pieces of data, aka your test scores, are going to be very difficult to come by because things like the SAT, the ACT, the ISEE, the SSAT, the HSPT, and all the beautiful acronyms that the students love to hate. All of these things are very difficult to come by right now and to get these scores. So we know for a fact that these other pieces of data are going to need to be far better than they were in the past, so that way they can make up for the test scores.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. One last question. What question should I ask you that I haven't, and what's the answer to that question?
Well, one of the number one questions that I've been getting right now about specifically COVID-19 and what's going to happen afterwards is essentially we've been trying to project what's going to be happening as a result of COVID-19. And just like you, Jeff, and just like the world, we can only project. We cannot necessarily know concrete what's going to happen. So ultimately, what I've been telling my parents and the families that I work with is to do what you can where you're at with what you have. We all have different levels of resources. We all have different levels of wants with regard to a school that we're going to be applying for. But ultimately, if you can take those joysticks out of your students' hands and have them do something productive with their days, their weeks, their months, do what you can with what you have where you're at right now, and you'll find that that in itself is going to be better than any particular massive amount of students out there that are playing video games as opposed to working on themselves and or working on their academics or making themselves better in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Can the parents contact you for help in terms of other good activities for their child to basically utilize this time at home?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be more than happy to talk to any family who's looking for some tips and tricks on getting their student more productive during COVID-19.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you for your time and letting me put you in the hot seat.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed being there.
Okay. Our contact info will be included in the description comments below. Please like our video and follow us if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. This is Jeff Huang and
Xander Ruiz.
signing off.